Hi there, my name's Charlie and I'm the head of movement here at Bahai, and in this video I want to break down the 5 F's of natural footwear or barefoot shoes, and it's really just a little guide as a little checklist for what you guys can look for in a shoe to make sure you're getting the right fit and the right type of shoe for you. So the 5 F's are foot shaped, fixed, flat, flexible and feel. So the first one and the absolute non-negotiable is foot shaped. So what this means is not only is the shoe wide, but that it's wide in the right place. So a lot of shoes can be wide here at the forefoot area. However, the widest part of our foot should be at the tips of our toes. So we want it to not only be wide, but we want it to be foot shaped. So what this means is that the width of the shoe is widest at the tips of the toes. And this is to allow our toes to splay out. We want that natural wide tripod foundation that can help us with stability and balance in our everyday life. There's no need to transition with foot shaped. You can switch to a foot shaped shoe with no problems. It's the #1 non-negotiable. The second F is fixed, and what this means is the shoe firmly fixed to your heel? So a prime example of a shoe that isn't is a flip-flop or a slipper. And this can have negative effects because if you're walking with a flip-flop, then because there's no fix to your heel, then your foot or your toes rather, without you really realizing it, can actually claw into the footbed to keep your shoe on. And same with a flip-flop, the same with a slipper. And if you're doing this for a prolonged period of time, your foot can start to do this clawing movement pattern, which is unnatural and is not what we want. So here at Bahai, every shoe that we design has a fix to a heel, even our sandals that are sort of like you would wear them as a flip-flop, more of an adventure sort of sandal. However, it has a fixed heel strap, which is firmly secure, so you can have a natural walking gait. And with fixed, again, there's no transition period. You can, it's another really non-negotiable that you can switch to straight away with no issues. Now, the following 3 F's need a little bit more context and they may need a transition period. So the third F is flat. What this means is the sole of your shoe the same thickness at the heel as it is at the forefoot? And this is to put our body into a natural posture or natural alignment. Many shoes that are manufactured today are manufactured with a raised heel. And what this does is the exact opposite. So it tilts our body forward and can put extra pressure on areas of our body that aren't designed for it, like the balls of the feet, for example, the knees, and anywhere further up the chain. So when you're looking to transition into barefoot shoes, you may need a transition period for this because it will, going from a raised heel to a flat sole is going to put a little bit of extra load through your calf and Achilles. Now, this isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's just putting your body back into a natural alignment. However, your body may need to transition. So here at Bahai, we have these little very handy heel lifts, and they're little jelly cups with a slightly raised heel that you can put into your shoe with a flat sole that can help you transition from a raised heel to a flat sole. So it's just a little stepping stone to ease you into that transition. Also with a flat sole, many shoes today are manufactured with a raised toe box, where the toe box curls up at the front of the shoe. Here at Bahai, we design shoes with very, very minimal, if not zero, toe lift. And this is to allow your toes, when you're walking, to be able to activate and push off into the ground. And this is going to help us build super strong and adaptable toes and feet. And the 4th F is flexible. So this is just the amount of flexibility you have in the sole of your shoe. And again, with a lot of people think, with barefoot shoes, they're all just very, very flexible. However, at Bahai, we've designed a spectrum of shoes called modes with 3 different levels of flexibility to meet you where you're at. Because again, many conventional shoes are manufactured with a very stiff sole. So this is our Flex model, and it's a super flexible shoe and it allows your foot to move naturally. However, a lot of people may need a little bit more structure in the sole when they're transitioning, because this shoe will demand a lot more of your foot than something like this shoe that is super stiff, which is why we have our modes concept. So this is the endurance, and this has, it's still flexible, so it has the flex grooves here in the forefoot area of the sole. However, it's less flexible than our flex, for example, and this is so that you can transition at your own pace. So we have 3 different modes. We have the endurance, which has some flexibility. We have the adapt, which is in the middle, that has medium level of flexibility. And then our flex is the most flexible. Now the 5th and final F is feel. So what this means is how thick or how much feel ground you can get in your shoe. What this means in simple terms is how thick the sole of your shoe is, and therefore how much can you feel the ground. If you're transitioning from a conventional shoe, they're going to be oftentimes have a thick sole that is got very limited ground feel. A stiff and rigid sole will have limited ground feel. And so you may want to start with something like our endurance that has a thicker cushioning, which is 22 millimeters. And this is going to give you more ground feel than the average conventional trainer, but it's going to be a nice, easy transition into this barefoot world. Then we have the adapt, which is the middle trainer. That has a 14 millimeter sole thickness, and this is going to give you more ground feel. So it's going to give you more deep pressure underfoot. For a lot of people, you may be fine going straight into the adapt. So there's a lot of nuance and context with this kind of thing. This is why we've created our modes concept, so we can meet you where you're at. And then with the flex, again, there's even more ground feel. So that it's got lots of flexibility, but it's also got a thinner sole at 10 millimeters, which is more like the majority of barefoot shoes. So if you're more experienced with barefoot shoes, you may want to go straight into the flex. So thanks for listening, guys. That was the 5 Fs of barefoot shoes or natural footwear. If you want more guidance on how to transition into barefoot shoes, we have more videos linked down below, which is the 0 to 12 weeks plan for you. So I'd highly recommend you watch that video as well. And if you want to take a deeper dive into heel lifts and inserts, which is that helping you transition from a raised heel to a flat sole, there's the heel lift and insoles video as well. And we also have a deeper dive into our modes concept, and that video is called the Modes Explained. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and I'll see you soon.